Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another fun-filled episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, board-certified criminal defense lawyer. What does it mean to be board certified? It means you've had exams. It means that you've had enough trial experience that you become a specialist in the area of criminal trial work. I'm board certified by the National Board of Trial Advocacy and by the Minnesota State Bar Association as a criminal trial and criminal law specialist. It's what I do. It's what I love to do. But why does that matter? It matters because as I analyze the Donald Trump indictment, which is what we're doing today, it is through that lens that you'll see in a way that you won't see anywhere else. But before we get to that, we got a couple things we want to say. First, this is brought to you by what? eSign.com. eSign.com. Let's say that you are a former president and you are... Well, you go to eSign.com to get your new lawyer on board because you don't like what the other ones are saying. You can't leave Mar-a-Lago because you got a warrant out for your arrest in Manhattan. So what do? You call the lawyer up and the lawyer drafts a retainer agreement, sends it to you, eSign. He downloads the app. You get 3 free signatures a month, and then you were able to do your business remotely. eSign.com is a very effective way to do business remotely. I use it all the time when I have a client that can't come into the office, or I just need to get something done quickly. And even with power of attorney, you're able to remotely sign documents, and it's an excellent, excellent way to remotely do business. All right. Also, sometimes fans show their appreciation in certain ways. And we've got somebody that sent us socks, I'm going to read this to you. This is so awesome because Bryce from Lansing, Michigan, this is for you. Since finding your YouTube channel, I've given up watching most trials. Instead, I just wait for your excellent video reviews and analysis. Looking forward to the podcast about which you've been forecasting. Perhaps you'll have video in your action in the courtroom. Well, probably won't be doing that anytime soon. I don't like it when we have clients that are in the media like that, because if they are in the media, that means it's a high profile and they're kind of screwed. And as my grandma would say, you are a damn smart dressing guy. Well, this is just so sweet. So Bryce, nice guy, sends me a Giorgio Armani tie. I'll be wearing this in our next episode. Thank you, Bryce. Shout out to you. All right, so now we are reacting to DJT, Donald John Trump. He was indicted, as we all know, this week. He turned himself in. And let's talk about what an indictment is. A grand jury has to sign off on whatever charges that are there. And so in this indictment, Donald Trump was charged with 34 counts of falsifying a business record in the first degree. What does that mean? It means that he falsified a business record with the intent to conceal or commit another crime. What's the other crime? It can be election interference. It could be a tax violation. We don't exactly know because it doesn't specify in the indictment what the crime is. 100%, the whole indictment revolves around Michael Cohen. There's no question in my mind about it. My understanding is that with Michael Cohen, when he did the thing with Stormy Daniels, I think it was 3, maybe 4 payments. And if we break down the indictment, the falsified records breaks down into 3 different categories. Invoices, all from Michael Cohen. Checks, all from Donald Trump. And ledger entries into the Trump organization. So you have 11 invoices, 11 checks, and 12 ledger entries. So it gives you 34 counts. How will this be pursued at trial by Alvin Bragg? One of the things about documents is that they don't lie. And you're going to have Michael Cohen come in and testify. People are going to say, oh, Michael Cohen's a liar, blah, blah, blah. But keep in mind, he kept him on the payroll for 10 years. All right? So he knows where the bodies are buried, and he knows what these invoices are for. But more importantly, he knows what they're not for, right? They are not for legal services. These are for catch and kill. These are for hiding the Stormy Daniels thing just before the election. My understanding now, and I'm going off of other reports that I've heard and other news stories that I've heard, is it really centers around 2 people. One is Stormy Daniels. The other is Karen McDougal. Karen McDougal, as you know, was this beautiful woman who had an affair with Donald Trump. Trump wants to bury this stuff. He wants to catch and kill. So he contacts David Pecker. Nice name, Pecker. Anyway, Pecker is, as the Inquirer, the National Enquirer. So he goes out and he buys her story for $150,000. My understanding is that that Trump stiffed Pecker That really sounds bad, doesn't it? He's stiff to pecker. Anyway, paid her $150,000 for the story, and then he sat on it and didn't do anything with it, and so that's called catch and kill. Now, there's two ways well, let's back up just a little bit. The falsifying a business record in New York State, I'll read you the statute. A person is guilty of falsifying business records in the first degree when he commits the crime of falsifying the business record in the second degree, which is a misdemeanor, and when his intent to defraud includes an intent to commit another crime or to aid or conceal the commission thereof. So basically, if I am, and here's the thing, there's only one reason to falsify a business record, and that is to conceal it for some other purpose. Now, if concealing it because I just don't want Melania to find out because she thinks I'm such a choir boy, yeah, who believes that? Nobody believes that. That's one thing. And that probably will be his defense. But if it's to conceal it from, let's say, conceal it from the public just before an election, that's a little bit harder to prove. But if he's listing them, regardless of let's say that was his motivation to conceal it from the public for the purpose of the election. But if in the alternative, you actually deduct them as, legal fees, and they're not legal fees, they're reimbursements for stuff that wouldn't be deductible anyway. That is, I think, where Trump is most vulnerable. And I think that is where Bragg is that's the easiest way to prove this case is through taxes. And who's more vulnerable than anybody else on taxes? Guess what? It's Donald J. Trump. So when you look at the indictment, it doesn't tell a story. There's a thing called a speaking indictment or just a bare bones. This is a bare bones indictment. And what it basically does is it just lays out in very stark terms that he's falsifying a record and he did it for the purpose of committing another crime or concealing another crime. Now, here's some of my issues with Trump. He's a professed billionaire, right? He's a professed billionaire. Oh, I'm funding my own campaign. How much money has he raised? How much money is he continuing to raise from people who don't have it? He did that NFT thing with him in a spacesuit, him as a cowboy. That he just ripped off from Shutterstock. It's just a grift. It's a constant grift on the public. Let's just kind of analyze the mountain of legal shit that he's going through. Okay, in about a week and a half, he's got a trial starting in New York, and that's the defamation trial with the woman who claimed that he had raped her years ago, and then he said it didn't happen or called her all kinds of names, and that case is going forward. I don't really think that that's that big a case, to be honest with you, but it's a case, and it's a case that's going to trial. Pain in the neck. Still got to pay somebody to be there, right? Then you got this New York case. Then you've got the Letitia James case that's going to trial in October. That's a $250 million fraud case. Then you've got the DOJ, who's got two cases. You got the January 6th, and then you have the Mar-a-Lago documents. The classified documents being held at Mar-a-Lago, along with an obstruction charge. Then you've got the Fani Willis down in Fulton County, Georgia. And she's indicated, and we'll play this for you here in a second, that she is going to be indicting him soon.
We are going to get the special purpose grand jury sworn on May the 2nd.
And whether she indicts on just a bare bones indictment like this, or whether it becomes a RICO, is a completely different story. And here's what this indictment in New York does. Basically, it establishes a pattern and practice of fraud. And so falsifying business records in the first degree is a Class E felony. Now, what does that mean? That means that it has a maximum, each count has a maximum of 4 years. Now, is he looking at 4 times 34? I really doubt it. I think you could group these into probably groups of 4 or 5. And because if you look at it, count one, invoice for Michael Cohen. Count 2, ledger entry, voucher, whatever the number is. And then you've got count 4, check, probably to Michael Cohen. So those all kind of relate to each other. So they almost could be one count, really. But he's charged each entry, each business record that's been falsified as a count. And so I think a judge is going to be a little circumspect about charging, or sentencing all of them together, or not together, but sentencing them all of them separately. That just isn't going to happen. He's not going to get like 200 years or, 4 times 34 would be 136 years. That's not going to happen. But could he get 10 years? He very conceivably could get 10 years. And that's 10 years for him would be a life sentence. So when you have this cast of characters, and keep in mind that David Pecker has been before the grand jury and likely will testify at trial. Alan Weisselberg will testify at trial, I'm sure. Whether he'll be called to testify, whether he testifies or not, and he's got some exposure too because he's knee deep in this with everybody else. And keep in mind he's getting out of Rikers Island pretty soon. He did 5 months for Trump, and then you've got Michael Cohen. And so Michael Cohen's going to be, even though he is this convicted liar. I hate air quotes, but I just did it. He's this convicted liar. He also has to be corroborated. You can't just take Michael Cohen's word for it. There's going to be plenty other people who are going to corroborate what he says, along with documents and recordings. Remember, he was recorded. You don't hear a substantive defense on any of these counts. You don't hear count 1 never happened. Count 2 never happened. And here's why count 3 is wrong. You don't hear any defense on the merits at all. And if you say, this wouldn't happen but for Trump, Bragg has prosecuted 117 of these in the past successfully. So he is not just picking on Donald Trump. Cohen went to prison for this. Cohen went to prison for things he did for Donald Trump, among other things, and lying for Donald Trump. And so the principal gets off scot-free. And keep in mind, it's so long ago. Well, keep in mind, it's really not that long ago because they really weren't in the position to charge him while he was president. So that was only 2.5 years ago, right? So he hasn't been out of office that long, or 3 years ago. He hasn't been out of office that long. So you watch. I think this is going to be a very easy case, Alvin Bragg, to prove. I really do. In any event, this has just been our quick reaction to give you kind of a bird's eye view of what this indictment really is about and what his exposure is. Now, I can't tell you exactly if they get a conviction on all these counts where the judge is going to come down, but I can tell you this. First thing you're going to see out of the block from Trump is a motion to dismiss. And that won't go anywhere. That just won't go anywhere. They may ask for a bill of particulars because there's not a whole lot of facts within the indictment itself. And they may get that. But let's just keep following this. And my hat's off to Bryce. Thank you, Bryce. I love it when I get positive vibes from you guys. And here's the thing. I was just in Denver, on a federal gun case. And I was at the airport sitting down, and all of a sudden I'm telling this guy how great our channel is and how great our fans are, and once in a while I get recognized. All of a sudden there's this waitress that's working there, Bruce Rivers, and she just was going crazy about our channel. We love it. We love it. If you see me out and about, don't hesitate to say hi. Put your comments in. We'll try to get to things you guys want to see. And we're just having a blast. Part of it we're having such a blast doing this is because I have such a great content genius as a son, Michael Rivers. He is awesome. We're going to be starting a podcast soon. And when we do the podcast, guess what? It'll be Michael and I on camera, bantering back and forth. We get along really well. We love each other. He's my best buddy, and he's very smart. And I think you'll find that super entertaining. It'll be more long form. We'll have guests and hopefully to educate and entertain. So that's what we do. So this is Bruce Rivers for another episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. Thanks for watching. Make sure you sign up for Patreon, subscribe, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, and we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer. Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts, CLR. I am Bruce Rivers. I am a board-certified criminal defense lawyer. And if you watched our episodes last week or earlier this week, you knew that I was in trial last week. And guess what? I got a 2-word verdict. That means the government came in second place. So my client walked home free and was happier than shit, and so was I. So today we're reacting to Alec Baldwin. But before we get into the whole Alec Baldwin movie set on Rust, I want to tell you about a couple things. First, we hit 400,000 subscribers. I just can't believe it, and that's just since February. I can't tell you how appreciative I am. That said, let's get into the Alec Baldwins. Now, you know that on the movie set of Rust, Alec Baldwin's the producer. That means he finances and gets everything together, and he's the one making the movie, right? And this is a Western that was taking place in New Mexico. He was inside a church building and was doing a reverse draw. I think that means he was going like this. And he had a revolver, a Colt 45, which is the Colt 45 Peacemaker. Now, in some of our other videos, you know, I heard, oh, that's a prop gun, prop gun, prop gun. Well, even prop guns, when they fire them, in this context, they're real guns. But it's just a matter of what they fire, okay? And we're going to get into who the other players are and exactly what they could be looking at. Now, in this case, he was rehearsing a scene. He was practicing the reverse draw and firing it, I assume, towards the camera. Now, there's no footage of this, but and near the camera was the director of photography, Helena Hutchins. Beautiful, well-respected young woman, and she was shot and killed, and with one bullet. And director Joel Souza, he was also hit. I think he was hit in the arm. Now, Santa Fe County authorities had a press conference yesterday. And in the press conference, they recovered the bullet that was inside Souza. And they know that an actual live round was fired from the gun that Alec Baldwin was using. Now, this is what's called a blank. A blank is a casing that still has all the gunpowder, but it doesn't have a slug. Now, this, my friend, is a .357 Magnum. And as you can see, I just emptied it out. And first of all, if you can see, that's a wheel gun. It's really almost identical to what Alec Baldwin was using. This is a .357 Magnum, but it is. You can see that it has a chamber here with 6 rounds that go in it, and then you put the round in there and close it up like that. Okay. This is a live round. You can tell at the end there's a lead tip on the end with a copper jacket. Okay? So up until about here, that's all gunpowder. And on the bottom of it, you can see that there's a firing pin. So what happens is the hammer on the gun hits the gunpowder, it ignites the gunpowder, or it hits the firing pin, ignites what's inside there. That causes an explosion. And then it causes it to fire down the barrel and proceed forward. I just handled a homicide today, and one of the lines in that case was, they don't know their target. It can't all of a sudden turn left when it realizes it's not the right target. They just fucking go. So let's analyze the legal ramifications of what's going on here. Live rounds on a movie set are a no-no. A no-no. Why? Because you're actually pointing a firearm at a particular individual. And when you point a firearm at a particular individual and you fire it, you goddamn well better not have a live round in there unless you intend to kill somebody. Now, I've had cases kind of similar to this. I had a case once where my client was a loving dad, and he always carried a gun with him wherever he went. Always, everywhere he went, he carried a firearm. And his son was going to go and have he's going to Colorado the next day, and he was all packed, and he was very proud, and he wanted to show his dad his camping gear was all packed up and ready to go. He somehow took his gun out while hugging his son, and the gun went off and killed his 14-year-old son. There's no punishment. There's absolutely no punishment at all that this court could impose upon that client that would make him feel any worse than what he already felt, because he loved his son. He and his wife were an intact family. Everybody was, and just awful. And we got to court, and he was charged with manslaughter. Now, in Minnesota, manslaughter is, criminal negligence is culpable negligence, and that you're appreciating a danger and acting in the face of it. In other words, a kind of a reckless disregard. In New Mexico, where this happened, the manslaughter is identified by, it's called involuntary manslaughter, which is probably what this is. So let's back up. Let's rewind. So Alec Baldwin is sitting there, and he's got his cowboy gear on. He's got the lighting, and you just set the scene. You got the director of photography and the director probably sitting somewhere near the camera, because I'm sure the two of them were close together. And so Alec Baldwin gets handed a gun, and he gets handed a gun by a guy by the name of David Halls, who says it's a cold gun. And that term means that it's been checked and it's ready to go. Well, during the press conference, we find out that there's a shit ton of live rounds. And they're I don't know if they're mixed or what, but they definitely have the casing and the bullet that came out of Mr. Souza. So Alec Baldwin gets handed the gun, and when he gets handed the gun, he does what he's supposed to do in terms of the scene and practicing pop, and he shoots and he kills Helena Hutchins. Tragic, absolutely tragic. Now, this really isn't a case of what happened. Sometimes there's a case I didn't do it. Sometimes there's a case of we don't agree on the facts. And sometimes it's a case of we all know what happened, but what does it mean legally? Now, when he gets handed that gun, what is in Alec Baldwin's mind? He's thinking, I think that he's probably thinking with a clear head, I can trust this guy. It's a cold gun. Let's go. And my guess is that's not the first time they've done that on the set. However, many people have quit like the day before because of safety concerns. And rumor has it that they were plinking off cans or doing something with live rounds earlier in the week. And there were complaints, and that's an issue. Now, let's talk about the liability for Alec Baldwin. I really don't think Alec Baldwin has any criminal liability. I think he's got civil liability, and let's talk about that for a second. There's a difference between criminal and civil liability. Civil liability means they'd have to show a duty, and he's got a duty. He's the top notch at the set. He really is in charge of everybody's safety. But they only have to prove that by a preponderance of the evidence. And what that means is that there is just slightly more, the fact to be proven has to be slightly more true than not true. Okay? And so the civil context, it's a much lower standard than the criminal context. Criminal context is beyond a reasonable doubt. So Alec Baldwin, in my opinion, is probably not going to see any criminal charges as a result of this. So you can see I'm in a different suit. Last week we filmed our reaction to the Alec Baldwin situation. Since then, he has kind of given a roadside press conference. And I thought I'd just update the reaction here so we can see what he's saying. Remember what I said? Stop self-snitching. There's things in here that he says that he shouldn't say. But let's just check it out.
Because it's an ongoing. I've been ordered by the Sheriff's Department in Santa Fe. I can't answer any questions about the...
Okay, he just said he's been ordered by the Santa Fe Sheriff's Department not to say anything. Bullshit. You cannot be ordered by the Sheriff's Department to say anything or to do anything. They've got no power to order you to do a fucking thing, except for maybe, when they execute a search warrant, when they have a scene, they can order you away from the scene, but they can't order you to talk or not talk. That is not true.
There are incidental accidents on film sets from time to time, but nothing like this. This is a 1 in a trillion episode. So...
Well, whether it's 1 in a trillion or not, this is an incidental accident.
He is in shock. He has a 9-year-old son. We are, in constant contact with him because we're very worried about his family and his kid.
See, here's the thing. You got two major things going on. You've got a potential civil lawsuit. Well, not potential. You got 2 civil lawsuits that are going to happen out of this for sure. 2 wrongful death and a tort claim. A tort claim is like for the injury, and then you've also got a criminal probe. That's really should drive the day. I'm his lawyer. I say shut the fuck up. Do not talk to anybody. Problem is that he's a very high profile guy, and he's in the entertainment business, and image is everything, right? And he really needed to have a spokesperson come out and give a statement. This is what we know. We're cooperating with authorities. Mr. Baldwin will not be giving any comment to anybody because the investigation is ongoing. That's what should have been said. Not by him, by somebody else. But the problem is he's got a paparazzi problem. He's got a paparazzi problem where they're camped outside of his home, and it's all this pressure. And so my heart goes out to him from that respect. But
as I said, we're eagerly awaiting for the Sheriff's Department to tell us what their investigation has yielded.
The encounter at times intense and even awkward.
Excuse me.
Baldwin shooing his wife away at one point.
You guys, you know what? No details.
Do me a favor. I'm gonna answer the question.
The famed 30 Rock actor fired the deadly shot, according to authorities, after he was handed a prop gun mistakenly with...
And you can see by the tension between he and his wife. I mean, this is a lot of anxiety, a lot of tension, a lot of anger.
You were a very, very, well-oiled crew shooting a film together, and then this horrible event happened.
See, no, he says they were a very well-oiled crew, which really is not true. I mean, it certainly isn't true from the standpoint that the people who quit, like either the day or week before, over these safety issues.
Characterization in sharp contrast to what others on the ground have recalled. A source familiar with the matter saying some crew members walked off set shortly before the shooting over safety concerns. But Russ Movies Productions having said previously, we were not made aware of any official complaints concerning weapon or prop safety on set. Baldwin now turning his attention to a broader look at change in the industry.
So what has to happen now is we have to realize that when it does go wrong, and it's this horrible catastrophic thing, some new measures have to take place. Rubber guns, plastic guns, no real...
See, overall, his statements aren't terrible, but saying that we're a well-oiled machine, that could come back to bite him.
That's not for me to decide. It's urgent. It's urgent that you understand I'm not an expert in this field. So whatever other people decide is the best way to go in terms of protecting people's safety on film sets, I'm all in favor of, and I will cooperate with that in any way that I can.
The Baldwin family parting with this plea for privacy.
My kids are in the car crying.
See, and the last thing is kids are in the car crying. Honestly, I would have not even gotten out of the car. I would have just comforted my children, and away we go. But the problem is that he's that high-profile guy, and he's this desire to control the narrative, right? And that's where that comes from. And it's that desire to control the narrative. And then you got to resist that when you have something this high-profile coming on. So let's get back to the rest of my reaction. So where then does the criminal liability exist? Well, this Hannah Gutierrez Reed, she was the armorer, and she's supposed to load the weapon. And load them with what? With live rounds? I don't think so. But she did load it with a live round. And if she did load it with a live round, there's one of two things that could happen. Number one, that's pretty damn reckless, and that would be probably manslaughter for sure. But let's say she really didn't like the director, and let's say she did it on purpose. That would be murder one. That would be using Alec Baldwin to kill her. There's nothing has been said about that, but as the district attorney said, they're leaving all options on the table. So in New Mexico, involuntary manslaughter exists of manslaughter committed in the commission of an unlawful act, not accounting to a felony, or in the commission of a lawful act, which might produce death in an unlawful manner, or without due caution and circumspection. And that's really that last part, without due caution and circumspection, is what we're really talking about here. Due caution would mean you open the firearm, you put your round in there, your blank, not your live round, and then you double check it just before you hand it over and tell somebody it's a cold gun. Now, I'm not in the movies. I don't know their protocol exactly. I do know that it's taboo to have live rounds on a set. It seems to me if you just check the round, and maybe you put a red X on it, or you put your initials on it, and then load it. That way we know who loaded it, and we know that it's been checked. The assistant director, David Halls, is the one who actually handed the firearm to Alec Baldwin. Now, should he have had a duty to check that firearm when it's been handed to him by Miss Gutierrez? And my understanding is that Miss Gutierrez is fairly new to the film industry and actually was almost fired, if not fired, from other movie sets because of lack of knowledge and lack of concern. But should he have, that'll be the question, is whether or not he had a duty to double check. And you've got somebody firing a gun at somebody, double check. And what would it take to double check? I'll show you. This is all you got to do. Mr. Baldwin. Yep, they're all blanks, and then reload it. Takes 2 seconds. That's all they had to do. That would be due caution and due concern and circumspection. It is really a sad case. It is really a sad case. There's going to be 2 lawsuits for sure coming out of this, and they'll be successful. The studio's got movie or insurance and plenty of money to pay these people, and that's really not where the damage is. The damage is in the loss of this young woman, and it's just sad. And you know what? To be honest with you, David Hills and Hannah Gutierrez Reed, it's sad for them too, because this is not a malice crime. It's not. It's a negligence crime. It's somebody that did something that they, just without a whole lot of thought or with carelessness. How you let a fucking round go through that gun that's live is just so irresponsible. And I think it could be a simple explanation as, well, they were plinking off cans the day before, and she handed him the wrong gun. It could be as simple as that. She could have loaded one gun and had the other one still have live rounds in it, and she could have just picked up the wrong gun. But what do? Do you ever point a gun at somebody? No. Do you always treat every gun as though it's a loaded gun? Absolutely. On a movie set like this, should you double check and triple check and have, you should make it so that there's no possible way that this could happen. And so this is a 4th degree felony, which means that they're both looking at 18 months, which, with good time, probably a year, if that. So it's absolutely horrific for everybody involved. I know everybody's cooperating as much as they can with the police, and and in this kind of case, I would instruct my client to cooperate, because like I said, it's not an issue of what is it, of what happened, because we know what happened. Unless we're talking about what happened prior to Alec Baldwin getting the firearm. That's still a little murky. So it's a tough situation for everybody involved. But it is so, like, on every news media. It's you don't see these young rapper cases that are all over the media. In fact, I don't recall seeing anything on national media about the indictment of those guys on FBG Duck's case. So I just wanted to kind of tell you a little bit about the Alec Baldwin situation, break it down in language that I think that I can understand, for crying out loud, and just wanted to let you know that there are going to be some criminal charges out of this for sure, but it's going to be probably a level category 4 felony, which is 18 months manslaughter, unless they go through, and they've taken a lot of things through a search warrant from the scene. If they find out any kind of other malfeasance, it could aggravate it, but I really doubt it. This just seems like a tragic accident, sort of like my client with his son, and when that happened, that was just so awful, and he wound up getting 0 time for that whatsoever, because the judge in that case said, there's nothing I can do to you that you're not already doing to yourself. And just everybody wept in that case, which it'll be the same in this case. Everybody will just absolutely weep for everybody. It's just tragic. So this has been our commentary on the Alec Baldwin situation and the set of Rust, and we'll see you next time on CLR. Remember to follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, sign up for Patreon. Get one of these. See you next time. The big question everyone has is, why has David not been arrested yet? And the reason David hasn't been arrested yet is because they don't have a cause of death. They don't. I mean, if you remember the Casey Anthony case, they found that body. Didn't they find it far away from the home, wrapped in a blanket and duct tape? Aside from her being her mother and being responsible for her care, they didn't have a whole lot of evidence that she did anything, and if you remember, she lied all kinds of ways to the cops, but they just didn't have anything linking her to the homicide. This could be the case with David. It's very similar in that they find a body with someone that he had a connection with, but they gotta link it up. They gotta make him responsible. So unless somebody comes forward as an eyewitness to something, or there's some footage of something, or there's some other way that they can link him up to her homicide, like, let's say, I think the quickest way to do that would be if they found some text messages where he says, we're getting drugs or whatever, and then somehow somebody comes forward and says, yeah, I saw him give her drugs and she overdosed. Or maybe he choked her out. Maybe there was a domestic dispute. I mean, his songs are dark as shit, aren't they? So, and just want to give a shout out to Traplore Ross. He kind of watched one of my videos and he gave us some good accolades, and he does some good work there. So give him some love. And Mr. Ross, Mr. Traplore Ross, if you want to collab, let me know. I'm all for it.
Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And what he do? And it's gonna react to all the self-snitching.
Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another fun-filled episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, your very own personal board-certified criminal defense lawyer here at your service. Your service. Really? Oh, lucky you. So this episode is about David, as is David Part 2. And if you remember, David is a musician, singer, songwriter, whatever. And he's a young guy who likes even younger people. And he likes to leave his Tesla anywhere anybody can find it and just jump in and decide to have a eternal slumber in his trunk. That's what happened here in this case. Before we get to that, this episode is brought to you by AskALawyer.com. AskALawyer.com is it's a good service. For $49, you have a living, breathing lawyer that you can consult with on a regular basis. And what that means is if you have a dispute with your landlord, if you are looking to file a claim against somebody, if you're trying to sue somebody or somebody's trying to sue you, or if your grandma's in your basement and you need to just get rid of her, not that way, not the way, like in the back of a Tesla, kind of get rid of. But if you need to have, let's say somebody's overstaying their welcome. Like you have a girlfriend, how the hell do I get this lady out of my house? It happens, guys. It does happen. So you go to AskALawyer.com, and for $49, you get a living, breathing lawyer. Or if you're doing your own thing, they have an AI library, basically, trained on all the 50 states. And so you can do your own legal research. Cheap at twice the price. I guarantee you hire me, I'm going to charge you a heck of a lot more than that. So go to AskALawyer.com. It's a good way to talk to a living, breathing lawyer and get some direction one way or the other, legally speaking. Okay, so I'm serious today because I'm donning pink, and I've got my Elvis Presley taking care of business 29-cent stamp cufflinks on, and so that's how you know we're doing business, right? Just ask Robert. Real men wear pink. So David, as you know, he wasn't around, oddly enough, when his car was found. So David, he's a singer. Yeah, his Tesla had the body of Celeste Rivas in it. Her body has badly decomposed, which means it had been there a little while. And some people have been doing some internet sleuthing. I don't internet sleuth, I just tell you what's going on. Celeste would have just turned 15. 15 years old. Where you should be at 11 o'clock if you're 15 years old on any given night? At home in bed. You should be bitching to your parents that you can't get out of the house. And then you go to bed, and else in case you wake up alive next morning in your bed. But Celeste would have been 15 and David's 20, so that's a little bit of an age gap. It suggested that they started dating when she was 10 or 11. God, which is way too young. And just so you know, the age of consent usually is 16. At 15... mistake of age can be a defense, but anything under 15, you don't have the legal ability to consent, and you don't have the legal excuse of mistake of age. So, according to SF Investigates, Steve Fisher, whatever his name is, I obtained photos of David's 2023 Tesla Model X when it was towed and impounded. I received a copy of the 82625 complaint reporting it as abandoned along with the vehicle impound report. The caller only noted a large dent in the rear, no mention of an odor. Well, as long as it's sitting in the... guarantee it gets worse as time goes by. Until it dries out, then it's not so bad. The tow report states nothing of value was seen inside. The photos suggest the car had been left in the spot for an extended period of time. The initial complaint was called in on August 26th, which is over a month ago. Then ticketed again on September 3rd, and then towed on September 5th. So you've got almost, about almost 2 weeks. The report also noted that there was no wants on the vehicle, meaning that it wasn't reported stolen. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, David was on tour at the time that this supposedly happened. Good for him, because he's got an alibi. So here's a picture of the car. So what? We've seen these. And there's a Reddit user. Now, somebody went back to the site, and they found a Tesla card, or the key, I guess, was in the gutter. And if you look here, he's touching it. He knows what he's looking for, right? What an idiot. That could have fingerprints or something on it. He should have called the cops, and, this is a homicide, probably. Although we don't know if it's a homicide yet or not. According to news reports, there are no persons of interest being pursued at this stage. But believe me, David is not off the hook. The last person, she's in his car. So authorities are reportedly not seeking a person of interest or suspect at this point in the investigation. See, one of the things that you need to find out before you decide whether or not somebody is responsible for her death is to find out how she died, right? So you need to establish cause of death. And that's where you get a forensic pathologist. And what do? They do an autopsy. They look for signs of trauma. They look for signs of natural disease. They look for signs of drug overdose. They look for anything that would indicate how the person died. Because a drug overdose is one thing, trauma to the neck, head, or chest area, like a gunshot wound or whatever, that is evidence of what? Homicide. But the fact that she's in a trunk tells you that the death is suspicious at the very least, because that's not a natural place to find somebody unless you're maybe Italian and living in New Jersey. So, cause of death not yet determined. Los Angeles Police Department Captain and Commanding Officer Scott Williams told TMZ that they are working closely with the Los Angeles County Department of Medical Examiner to determine Rivas Hernandez's cause of death. So, in their statement basically says, at this point, it has not been established if the teen's death was caused as a result of foul play or other causes, such as an overdose. But even if it's an overdose, who gave her the drugs? And I'll tell you, this is something they're doing nowadays that they didn't do as much 10 years ago, and that is going after the dealers. I text you, I say, hey, I just got some white lady. You want to come and do some white lady? And you say, yeah, I've been jonesing for some white lady. So I sell you some dope, right? And then you go use it and thinking you're going to get high, but really I sold you fentanyl. And so you're thinking you're getting high on cocaine, and really I sold you some fentanyl and you overdose. Well, guess what they do? They look at your phone. I can't delete your messages. So they look at your phone. Oh, looks like he just talked to CLR Bruce Rivers. And it looks like CLR Bruce Rivers just sold him some dope. And he got died. And so they come back to you that way. Cops really can't do a whole lot except for preserve the evidence until they find out whether or not somebody has died at the hands of somebody else. While police previously said David is cooperating with the investigation, Williams told police that he could not confirm if the singer was cooperating with the... Why would you cooperate at this point? If you're a target, you don't cooperate unless you really can prove you had absolutely nothing to do with nothing. But he's got more problems than just this issue. If he was dating her from 10 to 11, you can consent at 16. You can lie about your age, and that can be a defense to the other person at 15. But 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, you cannot legally consent. And let's say some 12-year-old is saying that they're 18 online. Oh, yeah, I'm 18, blah, blah, blah. That's not a defense. You can't use that as a defense down the road. So friends of David told TMZ that the two were romantically involved, but that they believe that she was a 19-year-old student at U.S. Who fucking cares? Who cares if she said she was 19? They said she didn't think she was a minor because she attended multiple age-restricted events. Guess what happens at those age-restricted events? You're with somebody famous, pull your way through. Law enforcement sources previously confirmed to TMZ that Rivas Hernandez had multiple fake IDs which could have given the access to such events. David's parents were swatted. It's been said that maybe this is a defense ploy to garner sympathy. I doubt that that's the case, but it very well could be. Let's just take a look at a report from Sidebar with Law and Crime.
So TMZ obtained police body cam footage. And this is from days after Celeste's body was found in that 2023 Tesla. And police show up to David's Hempstead, Texas family home. So we're talking September 18th, after Celeste was ID'd. And the Texas officers, they respond to this home, guns drawn, and they respond to a report of gunfire.
I'll go out wide and keep you covered. You want to tap the door? Wait for me. Because I'm going to keep you covered.
I'm still wrapping my head around this phenomenon of swatting. You know, where you report a crime and then you force SWAT and guns drawn officers to show up to somebody's place.
We got you covered. Come right here.
Because when you call 911, your number's there. So how would they not have it? And then not only that, your location shows up when you call 911. So they know where you are.
There's too many windows. Here, knock on the door. Dude, we got a phone call from here saying that somebody was dead. What? Is there somebody else that lives on this property that has your address? What's your address? No. That's it.
That's it. That's what actually got.
We got an address. There was a gunshot and a woman scream.
What?
I'm serious. That's why we came up here like this, because and then they talked to the caller. Whoever they were talking to said that there's a person dead.
No, sir. No, sir.
So,
Okay. Do you think if they get a call that somebody's dead, you can just shut the door and they'll just walk away? Not likely.
officers have guns drawn. They're ready, thinking someone might be dead. And there is just seemingly a lot of confusion by David's parents. They don't appear to have any idea what's going on. They close the door. So let's see what happens next.
You do that, expect the door to get blasted open.
Ma'am, we got to figure out what's going on so we can leave, okay?
Very advised. We made contact. They said nothing happened here. She shut the door. Now she's calling 911.
That's clear. We haven't received a call.
I believe she's going to be in the process.
Go ahead, give him a call if you want to verify it. Okay.
All right, she's calling you now. There's more that went on.
Can you repeat, sir? Broken traffic.
Oh, that's not normal activity. If you were at the wrong address, they'd be concerned about somebody else. Like really? Like, you know what I mean?
Just shutting the door doesn't make the cops go away.
Like, they'd be trying to help.
Can you send 10-42, sir?
Sorry to bother you, but somebody called and said there was something. I mean, there was a person that they called on themselves. You know what I mean? It was like, hey, there's somebody dead.
Someone's dead. Yeah.
That's why we had to take caution. You know what I mean? Wasn't trying to scare y'all. This house is way off the roadway.
So you just opened the gate and came in?
Yes, ma'am. I'll put it back. I have a gate just like it.
I can get part of it in my country.
Yeah, when it's something like this, when they say somebody's dead, their life matters more than, you know what I mean?
I hear.
I didn't damage your gate. I just opened it.
And that is when there is a realization. Did someone just prank them? Are they the victims now of swatting?
It ain't on their phone.
And this is not a Texas.
Yeah, that's an out-of-state number.
Someone's messing with us.
But whoever it would be pinged here though, because wherever they call from, it pings and sends it to dispatch.
What the what?
So like when.
So how do they get it to ping at that address? There must be a way to do that. I'm a way which I'm unfamiliar.
So like whenever you call 911, wherever you are, it sends like a ping to that's how they know the address.
And this address came up to this number?
Yes, ma'am. That's where he was meeting. County to engine 42.
So it says somebody on my property?
It could be. We'll check the property for you.
Yes, please.
So we'll ride around. If you can give me a layout, how's the property? Like, does it go further back?
No, it doesn't go any further back. It's just right here and then it goes right
The fence, with the gate, and the fence around, which is a private fence. Okay.
Well, him and I will ride around and check, and then.
So, I mean, how does that happen? I maybe you guys can tell me. So his lawyer that David's hired is Blair Burke. Now I don't know her personally, but I've spoken with her on more than one occasion. She's a friend of my former office partner, Joe Friedberg. She's represented Mel Gibson, Britney Spears, Ozzy Osbourne, Darren Sharper. So she's been around the block in terms of that. Harvey Weinstein, but she didn't try his case though. Anyway, so he's got, what does that tell you? Now he's got some high-priced legal talent. So apparently we have some new footage of the Celeste So let's see what she looks like.
Celeste Rivas Hernandez, whose decomposed, dismembered body was found by authorities in that 2023 Tesla that was impounded in a Hollywood.
You remember the songs that we heard in the last episode? It's so chilling, honestly.
Tow yard out in Los Angeles. Well, first of all, her death certificate has been released. We'll talk about that. Not really a bombshell.
Death certificate doesn't mean anything. Just and it probably says to be determined when it says cause of death.
Okay, it lists things we already knew, like how she was found on September 8th, 2025 in a vehicle. The cause of death has been deferred. The manner of death is pending. When we talk about manner of death, that could...
So manner of death and cause of death are two different things. Cause of death is either, suicide, homicide, blah, blah, blah. Manner of death is how did it occur? Was it an overdose? Was it strangulation? Was it blunt force trauma? Was it an overdose?
Homicide, accidental. But this, again, is not surprising because there is still an ongoing investigation, and it's consistent with the reporting that we've seen so far. And while the death certificate confirms that an autopsy was performed, reporting suggests that the medical examiner is waiting on the results of toxicology examinations. Now, this is interesting. The death certificate indicates that Celeste apparently was not pregnant at the time of her death, nor had she been pregnant in the last year. And this comes...
How is that significant? I guess it takes a motive away.
And this comes as there has been a lot of speculation about...
But here's the thing. So what? So she wasn't pregnant. Maybe she told somebody she was pregnant. Maybe she thought she was pregnant. And maybe, look what happened to Lacey Peterson when she was pregnant. Some guys can freak out about that. But I think there's more going on with Mr. David than what we even know.
Her relationship, her connection with David. So we're going to talk about him. We're going to talk about his movements. Before we do that, one more thing about Celeste, and this is big. So in our previous episode of Sidebar, we talked about how Celeste had reportedly run away in the past. And there were surveillance footage from March of 2024 that was released. It was taken from a local liquor shop in Lake Elsinore. She apparently lived nearby. That's about 75, 76.
When I hear about a teen running, let me tell you something. If you're a teen and you have to run because your home situation sucks, find a relative if you can. Honestly, you shouldn't be on the street. Or, here in Minneapolis, there's a place called Bridge. It's, teens can go to a shelter. I just, how alone, it's one thing, one of the things that kids do, they'll defend their parents no matter how much they beat them, because it's all they know. And so you're on the street, you're alone. You'd probably rather be beaten sometimes than, be alone on the street. So if you're on the street and you're running away, it's got to be bad, you would think. Unless you're running to somebody like David because your parents just won't let that happen. And which is even sadder because you don't know what's coming down the pike.
6 miles away from where her body was found in that Tesla. Now, that footage seemingly captured her walking and then jogging down a street. She turned the corner and she disappears from view. We thought this may be the last known footage of her before she vanished and ultimately was found in that Tesla this year. Turns out there is new footage. There is additional footage that we have to talk about. This came out after we did our recording yesterday. So TMZ obtained footage of what appears to be Celeste in September 2024. So that is different from the timeline that we had all understood, right? The one that we thought she went missing in April of 2024. In this footage that was captured on Nest camera on September 8th, 2024, and apparently provided by neighbors, it seemingly shows Celeste upset, arguing with people, reportedly over a prank that was pulled on her parents' home, potentially ding-dong ditch. TMZ reporting that racial slurs may even have been used during this altercation. And also, according to TMZ, a neighbor's boyfriend went over to Celeste's family home afterwards to say sorry, but Celeste's dad reportedly didn't seem to be too upset by the whole thing. Okay, the reason this is important, again, the reason this is key, is because it shows Celeste, or apparently shows Celeste, alive at Lake Elsinore in September of 2024 after she had disappeared, after she was missing, and apparently was on missing persons posters since April of 2024. Also, TMZ points out that September 8th, when this happened, is the day after her 14th birthday. And by the way, in a chilling twist, that is 1 year before she was found in that car.
So we supposedly have some footage of her a year earlier. I mean, a lot has happened in that year. So, but here's the thing with these runaway teens. You know, supposedly at the time that she was supposed to be missing, what happens with teens when they're supposed to be missing? They come home. They get fucking hungry. They get cold. You know, and well, can I come home? Yeah, I'm really sorry. Well, come on, oh, baby. I'm so sorry. You know, it scared me. I'm so, and then guess what? It happens all over again. So I don't know that you can make a whole lot out of that.
Car one day after she would have turned 15 years old. Not sure if police have obtained this video, not sure if police are using it in their investigation, not sure if they have questioned the people in this.
Well, anyway, I don't make a whole lot out of that. All we know is she's dead. She was found in the back of a car, and the key for the car was there on the side of the road. How did the cops miss that? Apparently, sheriff deputies had called 11 times in a year, 3 times in one day. Guess what? You know, that video that we just saw of her a year earlier, who cares? I mean, teens often do this. They run away, come back, run away, come back, run away, come back. And she had a troubled home life, you know, and so there's evidence of that. Riverside County Sheriff's deputies were called to her house 11 times in just 1 year. This is reported by TMZ, I guess. Deputies repeatedly responded to her house in Lake Elsinore. I can't say Elsinore. California between February 2024 and April 2025. And according to police records obtained by TMZ, and get this, the cops say deputies visited Celeste's home 3 times in a single day. So what does that mean? It just means she had a troubled home life. She was unsatisfied or abused, one of the two. So the records say almost all the calls were listed as a minor crime investigation, with the exception of one other call for suspicious circumstances. Police took reports for 4 of the incidents, and cops planned on making follow-up on 3 of the calls. The dispositions on the rest of the calls are not available. It's worth noting that in April of 2024, at approximately 9:29 p.m., police responded to her house just hours after she was reported missing. We reported that Celeste had a troubled home life and threatened to run away several times. An ex-boyfriend from middle school told TMZ that she had joked about it before she actually left. So, you know, did she leave because of abuse? Or did she leave because she was told she couldn't go? Or did she leave because she was in trouble for something else? You know, they're investigating something. And I remember I was 15. I had taken my dad's car out without permission. And I was at the baseball field. As I was leaving, I hit a car in the parking lot, freaked out, took it home, parked it in the street. And then all of a sudden the next morning, cops show up to investigate a hit and run. And what do? I pack a fucking bag and I hop on my bicycle and rode 80 miles to St. Cloud, Minnesota. So I knew my dad wouldn't be able to hit me from 80 miles away. God, we do some stupid things as teenagers, don't we? So, and we talked a little bit about the death certificate, and the cause of death is being deferred because they don't have the toxicology yet. One thing we don't know, or that one thing we do know, is that there's no obvious sign of cause of death, right? So there's no, she doesn't have a bullet hole to the back of the head that we know of. She doesn't have any other blunt force trauma that makes the manner of death obvious. The certificate says an autopsy was performed, but we don't have the toxicology. We don't have enough information yet. So Scott Williams, the LAPD captain, told us that it was critical for their investigation to know whether Celeste died from foul play or other causes. Without the ME's findings, it couldn't be squarely called a homicide. But let's analyze this for a second. She's in the back of a trunk of a car that was abandoned. Guess why you abandon a car? Because you don't want to be anywhere near it. And why don't you want to be anywhere near it? Because you know what's in it. And now all of a sudden you hire Blair Burke, because you know that you are probably the most likely target of the police. So you're starting out with very, very suspicious circumstances. So did she OD? So the medical examiners made no mention of Celeste being dismembered in the statement sent to SF Investigates. That's just some online sleuth. Originally reported through LAPD HQ. The question we all have been asking is David really dumb enough to murder a minor, leave the body in his own car, and then go on tour? Yes. Yes, he is. Because he's 19 and dumb as shit. The OD theory is weighing on me lately. It would make more sense that he panicked as she was a minor and didn't want to call the police if she did OD in his presence, right? Well, maybe that's probably a very logical assumption, but it's still, if you gave her the drugs, you're on the hook for a homicide. And then if you fuck with the body afterwards, that's another felony altogether. So let's see. So let's just pause at Mr. Investigates, SF Investigates. One possibility to consider is the death of Miss Rivas Hernandez is that there are no homicide charges. If Celeste suffered an overdose and they panicked and hid the body because it would expose David as a pedo, see what I did there? Give me a break. Somebody's really proud of themselves, aren't they? So that would be the abuse of a corpse and concealment of accidental death, not homicide. Not true. If you gave her the drugs, David, it is third-degree murder here in Minnesota, and he'd be looking at least 86 months. Then that would be the abuse of a corpse. While manner of death, natural homicide, accidental suicide, undetermined, can be ruled at any time, the cause of death will not be determined until toxicology results are back. Take a look at her text messages. Take a look at her circumstances up, because they'll reconstruct where she was, what she was doing, and you go from there. A crime absolutely happened here. She didn't put herself in the Tesla, but it doesn't mean it's homicide automatically. If she didn't die at the hands of someone else and was placed there after the fact, then it's a different crime. Agree and disagree at the same time. If somebody, like I said, if somebody gave her the drugs and she died over the drugs, it's a homicide. Was she dismembered? SF Investigates again. There's still a lot of debate about whether the body was dismembered or not. I do not believe she was. How the fuck would you know? Did you look at the body? Did you do your own analysis? No, you didn't. And I received a statement from the medical examiner's office that seemed to confirm that. There has not been any written statement claiming she was dismembered. In fact, the statement released by LAPD yesterday essentially tells us she was not dismembered. It noted that the only potential criminal culpability in this case may be concealment of her body. That was their way of saying she was not dismembered. David's lawyers his manager, Josh, got a letter from Celeste's family telling him that Celeste is an underage runaway. And I guess the day after that was sent, she went home. When you have a teen that you can't control, it's so frustrating. So, and obviously that David and his manager are silent on this issue. Of course they are, because he's not going to admit that she was there. Josh Marshall, his agent, puts out this statement on TikTok. Evidently he responded to a video. This video is false and the person is misinformed. This is all of what do we do on here? We speculate, right? And have you heard any speculation from me? I don't speculate about shit. I tell you what I know, what I don't know. And anybody else that says what they know, that's not involved in the investigation, like cop or medical examiner, they're just talking out their hat, as they say in Ireland. This is the only time I'll speak on this matter. For now, there's been a tough time for my family, as I am the father of 3 children. I have received no emails, and I am no one's roommate. I live full-time with my wife and kids. My daughter is 14, and, better watch your daughter. My daughter is 14, and this news is affecting so many lives. I never received any emails. I had zero knowledge of anything. Oh, of course you didn't. and I don't live in California. As I work remotely 95% of the time, and my job doesn't require me to have much interaction with any of my clients, David, there are as many as others that work with him on a day-to-day capacity, not me. In other words, seems like methinks thou doth protest too much. This news is tragic for so many and for her family. I hope the proper authorities get to the bottom of it soon. And let me remind people, a lot of the speculation and alleged. In the meantime, I am with my family helping them emotionally get through this. People, this is just ridiculous. So I swear to God, I've been saying this to my boyfriend. I think Josh did it. Based on what? I think he's heavily involved. How dare you say something like this with no facts? Whatever. I just don't get the rumor mill. TMZ is talking about this case on mainstream level. We are all content creators, and it's funny, Mr. Marshall would come to us instead of mainstream. LOL. I've never lived in that home. Oh, this is John Marshall. I've never lived in that home. I lived in an entirely different state with my family. I don't have access to any cameras nor anything on that property. Stop creating false narratives. In other words, I didn't do it. Don't come to me and say I did it. That's what an agent sounds like, by the way. So at this stage, if I was David's lawyer, what would I do? STFU. You shut the fuck up. You know, if you get a subpoena or court order, you comply with that. But short of that, I wouldn't have him do anything. The big question everyone has is, why has David not been arrested yet? And the reason David hasn't been arrested yet is because they don't have a cause of death. They don't. I mean, if you remember the Casey Anthony case, they found that body. Didn't they find it far away from the home, wrapped in a blanket and duct tape? Aside from her being her mother and being responsible for her care, they didn't have a whole lot of evidence that she did anything. You know, and if you remember, she lied all kinds of ways to the cops, but they just didn't have anything linking her to the homicide. This could be the case with David. It's very similar in that they find a body with someone that he had a connection with, but they gotta link it up. You know, they gotta make him responsible. So unless somebody comes forward as an eyewitness to something, or there's some footage of something, or there's some other way that they can link him up to her homicide. You know, like let's say I think the quickest way to do that would be if they found some text messages where he says, you know, we're getting drugs or whatever. And then somehow somebody comes forward and says, yeah, I saw him give her drugs and she overdosed. Or maybe he choked her out. You know, maybe there was a domestic dispute. I mean, his songs are fucking dark as shit, aren't they? We're all speculating here. But what we're not speculating about is they haven't arrested David because they don't have any evidence against him quite yet. They're building their case. So that's our little David Part 2 episode. You know, it tells you a little bit more that we knew before, but we're still in the dark on cause of death with Miss Rivas Hernandez. I just don't understand, you know, going after young girls. You know, if you are a young person and you're experiencing trouble at home, it's so fucking difficult to figure out what to do, isn't it? Go to a relative, go to the cops, don't go on the street. So, I mean, my son Michael, he took off, I can't tell you how many times. You know, all of a sudden I get a fucking ping on my phone. He's in Florida. You know, I'm in Minnesota. And it's like, what the fuck are you doing there? Oh, I'm sorry, we know. You know, and then it was Nebraska, and then it was Colorado. And it's like, dude, you got a nice bed. You got 3 hot meals, or as many meals as you want. You know, I mean, we got baseball coming up. It was just very difficult, you know, when you deal with that. So my heart goes out to any parents that are dealing with a child who doesn't want to stay at home. And this is just even more tragic because, you know, it resulted in somebody's death. So we'll see you next time here in Criminal Lawyer Reacts. Make sure you subscribe. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Twitter. Sign up for Patreon. Go to clrbrucerivers.com. Nick has now graduated to he turned a shopping cart over and he's got a tarp over it, and that's his home. But with a few more sales, I think we can get him a tenement house, where he's got to walk down the hallway to a toilet. So we'll, and he's always putting new stuff up there. So go to clrbrucerivers.com and go to askalawyer.com and go to Facebook. We'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer. The question of the day: will Sean, the diddler master, will he testify? I'm going to give you my prediction. Welcome to another fun-filled episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, your personal, very own board-certified criminal defense lawyer, and you know who you are. Today, this is CLR, Criminal Lawyer Reacts, the channel so crafted and curated by the former content genius that we knew as Michael Rivers, God rest his soul. Today we're reacting, this is an update on Diddy, okay? And I don't get everything right. I try to get everything right. I try to give you an analysis from a board-certified criminal defense lawyer, and I think I do a halfway decent job. So if I get something wrong, let me know. But if I don't, shut up. But before we get to that, this is brought to you by AskALawyer.com. AskALawyer.com is one of our favorite sponsors because guess what? If you're sitting in your mother's basement with your Cheeto-stained underwear trying to figure out the next path in life, maybe you need a lawyer. I know my grandma does, and she calls AskALawyer.com. You go to AskALawyer.com, you get a real lawyer, and let's just say you have what you think is a case. Any kind of case against your landlord, against, a contract dispute, or if you have a criminal case. You go to askalawyer.com for $49. They can advise you. They might be able to refer you to a lawyer that can represent you. Or they might just tell you, look, you don't have a case, but you have peace of mind because you went to somebody. Or maybe you're doing something. Maybe you got your own case. You're representing yourself and you want to do your own legal research. Go to askalawyer.com and they've got AI trained on all the different states and the federal laws. So you can do your own research with AI backing you up for $49. You can't, I would charge way more than that. So askalawyer.com, same people that bring you eForms and eSign, solid folks, solid sponsor of the channel. Give them some love. There you go. That's my spiel on askalawyer.com. Okay, let's talk about who's testified so far in the Diddy trial. Well, we have Cassie Ventura. Oh, Cassie Ventura. We have Cassie testifying about all kinds of stuff. And how did the defense attack her? Well, there's all kinds of text messages. She's saying she's looking forward to this or that. Somebody can enjoy something once or twice and all of a sudden say, this isn't for me. And all of a sudden it turns into an ugly thing. And some could argue that she's being plied with drugs because a lot of the testimony surrounded drugs, illegal drug use. And when you do that, that feeds into an overt act. Now remember, there's several different parts of this case. You've got the transportation for sex over state lines. You've got the sex trafficking. And then you also have the RICO. And the RICO is kind of the big one. And that's why they have so many different types of acts that are criminal in proving the racketeering, influence, corrupt organizations charge. Cassie testified. She spent 4 days on the stand. 4 days. That's a long time. And it was emotionally charged. And she is, I think she came off pretty credible from all accounts. But she recounted instances of being beaten, threatened, in sex without her consent, filmed without her consent, and she testified that she maintained, or that Combs maintained control over her. Now remember, you see her being beaten in that video. That is not consensual, no matter how you slice it. And what makes it even worse is she was trying to get away, and he wouldn't let her leave. And until somebody from the hotel was there, then he had to let her go. And you can see the pictures that she took afterwards where she's got some beating, some bruising, and it just doesn't look good. David James testified. He's her former assistant. He gave some insight into the day-to-day operations of Combs' private life. This is kind of a big deal because, what happens behind closed doors, it's, that's what if I was a big celebrity like this and you had an assistant, I suppose if you're not doing crazy shit, you don't have anything to worry about. But if you are, these people always turn on you. My office partner, God rest his soul, because he passed away last June, But Joe, he represented Prince years ago. It was a defamation thing, and these two women were suing him because they tried to sell something to the public. I can't remember exactly what it was. It was when his kid died. But you got people that work for you as a celebrity. They want to cash in. It's kind of like the court clerk, like we did in that Murdoch trial. Cash in on your position. Well, evidently, I don't, and I'm not saying David James is cashing in here, but he gave insight into the day-to-day operation of Combs' private life. He testified about prepping hotel rooms, and the drugs and sex paraphernalia. I mean, he's laying the scene. It's all foundation, and that's what they call it. And he described an incident in which Combs allegedly armed himself with 3 guns to confront a rival music executive, Suge Knight. I don't think Combs is from the street. I know he pretends like he is, but, all this, he's got a lot of money, and I think he's got a lot of ego. James also said that he initially struggled when he was being asked to do what he was doing, but he came numb over time. You cheat on your wife once, oh, God, I feel real guilty. Do it dozens and dozens and dozens of times, oh, I guess it's not so bad. It comes, same with anything else. Do drugs for the first time, feel kind of shitty. But all of a sudden it becomes normalized. And that's what basically he was testifying to. Basically supports the claims of normalized pattern of excess and abuse. So then we have Sheree Hayes, a dancer, and The Punisher, a dancer's confirmation. Professional dancer Sheree Hayes, known by her stage name The Punisher, testified that he was paid approximately £630 to perform a strip routine for Ventura while Combs watched. Hayes told the jury that he was instructed to make eye contact with Combs and that the event took place at Trump Tower, oh my God, in 2012. His account supported Ventura's claims and gave weight to the idea of these freak-offs were not isolated but carefully orchestrated. And, and here's the thing. I think they've also had somebody testify, about the sex trafficking and the transportation. That's probably the easiest claim to make on this thing. So then we have Regina Ventura, her mother. She testified about her daughter's physical injuries, emotional distress. And this is kind of a, when you have a witness like that, it can be powerful, but it's also a partisan, right? It is somebody that definitely has an agenda, protecting her daughter. She submitted emails and photographs as evidence and spoke of veiled threats and demands for money that allegedly came from Combs. Evidently, he demanded like $20,000 from Cassie, and I can't remember what that was exactly for, but and she wound up paying it. She took out a home equity loan and paid him the $20,000. Carrie Morgan, a friend who witnessed violence. These firsthand witnesses are powerful. And then when you have like emails and pictures to back up what you're saying, it's very, very powerful. Carrie Morgan was one of Cassie's best friends. She shared that she saw Combs hit Ventura with clothing hanger and recalled him screaming at her so forcefully she felt physically shaken afterwards. Her testimony is coming from someone outside Combs' professional life and gave further credit. See, one of the things that you do as a defense lawyer is you try to tear down the victim in a case, and that's what they have to tear apart her credibility, and the government knows this, right? So what do they have to do? They have to bolster her credibility. They don't have to, but they do, and so they're blunting some of the defense tactics in this thing. Dawn Richard, a music insider, formerly Danity Kane singer Dawn Richard, who worked under Combs' Bad Boy label, said she witnessed Combs violently assault Ventura, punching, choking, kicking, dragging. This all goes to the idea that things weren't consensual. One of the things she said, I thought she might die, she told the jury. Her testimony introduced a chilling picture of behind-the-scenes glamour of Combs' music empire. Oh, no, this is the one I was thinking about. Daniel Phillip, escort with a story. Daniel Phillip, a male stripper, testified that he was paid to have sex with Cassie while Combs watched. Say what you want about being a freak and a freak off. I'm not letting a guy touch my woman. His account aligned with the timeline and descriptions previously offered by Ventura. And guess what else they're going to have? Probably financial records that go along with the payment to the sex worker. So you have a sex worker, so you have somebody dancing in front of her. You got somebody f***ing her. Pardon my French. You're going to have, and that's the trafficking, or not the trafficking, but the transportation across state lines. Probably the easiest count to prove. So Cassie talked about a makeup artist named Mila Morales. She recounted a time where there was a party at Prince's place. So Morales testified, and she corroborated some of the prior testimony from Cassie Ventura, who alleged that Combs beat her in a hotel bedroom after spotting her at an unexpected party at Prince's Los Angeles home. The makeup artist told the court that she stayed behind to take a nap on the couch at the Ventura's Beverly Hills hotel room that night and woke up to a commotion later. Morales testified that Ventura came in and went straight to the bedrooms with Combs behind her. They shut the door to the bedroom, and Morales says she heard yelling and screaming, didn't exactly see what happened, but when she came out, when Cassie came out, she had a busted lip and knots on her head after the incident. And then Morales testified that Ventura stayed with her for a few days after the incident, and a doctor and a friend came to check on the singer. So here, and then Morales said she feared for her life. She didn't call the police. You know, you're dealing with somebody who probably not so much anymore, but at one time was a huge mogul in the music industry, right? And he's a billionaire, so he's got all this power. And if you didn't do what he said, you disappeared. That's what people thought. And so these horrific tales, you know, over and over again, are bolstering the credibility of Cassie. And that's really critical to this, because if you don't believe her, you don't have much, you know? I mean, because it's really built on her testimony. And check this out. Fred Zemore, the hotel manager of L'Hermitage Hotel in Beverly Hills, testified that a room would require deep cleaning after Combs stayed there. So gross. Zemore told the court that Combs would stay under an alias, of course. Notes marked in his hotel profile included that Combs used excessive amounts of oil and spilled candle wax on everything. So he had to pay a $500 for a cleaning fee, and they had to do a deep clean. And no black light allowed.
Now look at this.
Let's get to Kid Cudi. Prosecutors admitted photos into evidence that showed a burn damage to Kid Cudi's car, which he said was caused by a Molotov cocktail in 2012 after Combs learned that Cassie was dating Kid Cudi. And here's the other thing. He says they both feel like they got played by Cassie Ventura. What really is more important than anything else is the photos. The photos show what appears to be a burned hole through the top of the convertible, as well as scorch marks on the driver's seat. Kid Cudi, or he's also known as Scott Mascuti, he testified about his relationship with Cassie and the abusive nature of her relationship with Sean Combs. That's what he testified yesterday about that. He testified his car was torched with a Molotov cocktail after his relationship with Ventura ended, and he suspected Combs was involved. Earlier that same day, former assistant George Kaplan returned to the witness stand describing the demanding job of being Combs' bag man and cleaning up liquor bottles and baby oil from hotel rooms. Fucking gross. And now they're going to be off until Tuesday. When you're looking at this thing from 30,000 feet, you've got a male dancer. You've got a called the Punisher. Fucking, I mean, you can't make this stuff up. You've got a male escort who had sex with Cassie at Combs' request or demand, whatever. You've got Kid Cudi. You've got a makeup artist. You got a best friend. You got a mother. You've got an HSI guy testifying about the computer stuff. That's probably, we're going to get into that stuff next week. You've got the foundation kind of laid about drugs, about control, about kidnapping, about assault, about sexual assault, about sex trafficking, about transporting over state lines. That's what we have so far. Is he going to walk from this? No, he's not going to walk from this. They say this is going to last until July. I don't think it's going to last until July. But if you look at the exhibit numbers, I mean, they're high. I mean, they've got a lot of exhibits. And then you also have to have their defense. Big question. The question of the day: will Sean, the diddler master, will he testify? I'm going to give you my prediction. I predict he will testify. And let me tell you why. He's got nothing to lose. He's got absolutely nothing to lose. You know, generally speaking, the rule of thumb is this. You don't want your client to testify if you can avoid it. Why? Because your client's not sophisticated, generally speaking. And somebody who, unless you have a really, really excellent client who is really smart and savvy and not full of ego, which Combs is, you know he is. But he's got good lawyers, so they can prep him really well. You don't want your client to be subject to cross-examination. And when they give their story, you want them, the jury to hear it for the first time. But the problem with a case like this, where you have, it's not a he said, she said case, really. I mean, it kind of is, but it kind of isn't. Because there's so much other things other than Cassie's word that corroborate what she's saying. But if you only hear one side of the story, if you only hear what Cassie is saying, where's the countervailing narrative? Where is the person saying, no, this is really what happened? They're going to have to, unless you call in all kinds of witnesses of people that were there and she's, no, I saw her do that. Of course she did. Yes, she wanted to be near him. She wanted the drugs, and she had an opiate addiction, but that's how you can control them. And what is that? That's coercion. There you go. That's sex trafficking, by force, fraud, or coercion. And so if Combs doesn't testify, where's the countervailing narrative? If a defendant doesn't testify, you're not supposed to be able to hold that against him, right? There's a specific jury instruction that the court will give saying, in this case, the defendant did not testify and he has that right. You are not to use his silence for any purpose. Any out-of-court statement that he may have made can be used for any purpose. So if you remember before he got indicted, and they haven't played this yet, I don't think, and I don't know that they may or may not play this. But if he's going to testify, he'll want to play this. Let's just watch his little bullshit apology real quick.
It's so difficult to reflect on the darkest times in your life. But sometimes you got to do that. I was up. I hit rock bottom. But I make no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video. I'm disgusted. I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted now. I went and I sought out professional help. I had to go into therapy and go into rehab. I had to ask God for his mercy and grace. I'm so sorry. But I'm committed to be a better man each and every day. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm truly sorry.
That ain't the Sean Diddy Combs that we know, is it? No, it's not. And why not? The Sean Diddy Combs that we know wears a crown, and he thinks he's Caligula. And he is the diddler. He's the one that's got and what did he have? This is juxtaposition, right? So you hear this, I'm gonna change. I'm gonna be a new man. Chandelier, I heard the Lord. I got the Lord in my heart. Give me a fucking break. What did you have in your hotel room when you got fucking arrested? Drugs and baby oil. Gee, let's have a Diddy party.
Hey, everybody know ain't no party like a Diddy party.
And this is going to be jammed up his nose, for lack of a better word, if he testifies. Because I don't think that the government is going to want to play this. But it is an admission that he did something horrendous. Because you can't defend what's in that video. Remember the video? You can't defend that. Why can't you defend it? Because it's reprehensible. She's laying on the ground and he's dragging her. And he didn't want her to leave. Why does he want her to leave? Because she's probably going to go tell somebody what happened, right? He's going to expose him. And guess who got exposed? The diddler. You know, I mean, this is just absolute nonsense. It's more manipulation. This happened, I think, about 3 or 4 or 5 months or so, you know, about the time that, I think is about the time that she filed her lawsuit, and then they paid her off. You know, she settled for $20 million the day she filed because they didn't think she was going to do it. You know, it's like, how dumb would you be to settle that at that point? You know, I mean, okay, you file it, fuck you. Let's go prove this up. I wouldn't have paid her the $20 million, but she knew what she was doing. Her lawyers knew what they were doing because they were stalling. And the question I raised was, is he going to testify? This comes in if he testifies. And then guess what? Guess what we found in your hotel room, buddy? After you said you were going to treatment, after you said you were going to be a new man, maybe you just have dry skin and you need all that baby oil. Don't you have a pool that just has baby oil in it? Anyway, and now he sits. He sits in a jail in, I think, Brooklyn or wherever the heck it is, Metro, and he's awaiting. You know, on this Memorial Day weekend, can he get up and go make himself a sandwich? No, he can't. He has to have the bologna sandwiches that everybody else has. You know, it's just sad, honestly, because you see somebody that reaches such great heights. People say, oh, they were tearing down the man. They're tearing down, you know. No, he tore himself down. He tore himself down with this. Is he going to testify? I think he has to testify, you know. But it is kind of funny when you put this and then the pictures of his hotel room together. They make him sound really disingenuous. And the only reason he's doing this is because things were blowing up. Lawsuits were coming left and right. And he knew that this criminal indictment was because they had raided his house. And they knew the indictment. If they raid your house, you're going to get fucking charged with something, typically. Especially if the feds raid your house. So that's our update on the Diddy trial, ladies and gentlemen. I know you've been waiting for this all week, haven't you? I know I've been waiting to see you all week. Anyway, I'm very happy to say that nearing the end of my trial. I'm in a trial right now. Can't really talk about it. I'm not going to talk about it. But I got a couple of nice letters from people. Very heartfelt. Rosemary Winsing. I know I'm butchering your name, but thank you, Rosemary. And then we also have another one from Ken Jordan and family. Very nice people. And then I got some cuff links from Amy Ashworth. Thank you. I have to say, I really apologize. When they got here, one of them broke. So, but I it's a daily struggle to deal with my son's death, as you know. And, you know, I go to I still haven't done anything with his home. I mean, his home is just sitting there. And I went there the other day and they're putting new windows in. It's in like a townhouse development thing. And they're putting new windows in. And I just had a meltdown when I left. You know, I just started bawling like crazy. It's just tough. And thank God I've got my fiance, Chloe, by my side. And I'm telling you, she's really helped me through a lot. So I owe her a lot. Thank you. So anyway, so go to, here I am getting all misty-eyed. But sometimes you guys, you write me letters and you make comments and stuff. And I just want to let you know what's going on. So we'll see you next time here at Criminal Lawyer Reacts. Make sure you subscribe, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter. Boost our Facebook numbers up because we're on Facebook too. Posting a lot of older content on there so you can kind of revisit some of the other stuff because some of the episodes I did are pretty good. They were all Michael's idea. And go to clrbrucerivers.com for all your merch needs. We'll see you next time on Criminal Lawyer Reacts.